एक बार गिरा ना।
मार्केट क्रैश हो गया, मार्केट क्रैश हो गया, मार्केट क्रैश हो गया, मार्केट क्रैश हो गया।
History tells us that powerful people come from powerful places. History was wrong. Powerful people make places powerful. Name: Harshad Mehta. Many people calls him the big bull and the Amitabh Bachchan of stock market. He is stock broker and investor. Harshad Mehta was born in Paneli Moti, district of Rajkot in Gujarat. Born into a Gujarati Jain family, Harshad Mehta was a stockbroker who carried out the 1992 stock market scam, apparently the biggest ever stock market scam in India. Harshad spent his early childhood years in Mumbai's Kandivali, where his father, Shantilal, used to run a small textile business. Later, the Mehta family moved to Chhattisgarh's Raipur, where Harshad did his schooling and then came back to Bombay, now Mumbai, for his graduation in 1973. After completing his graduation in 1976, Harshad did odd jobs for the next 8 years. Jobs, often related to sales, including selling hosiery, cement, and sorting diamonds. Mehta started his career as a salesperson in the Mumbai office of New India Assurance Company Limited, NIACL. During this time, he got interested in the stock market and after a few days, resigned and joined a brokerage firm. In the early 1980s, he moved to a lower-level clerical job at the brokerage firm Harjivandas Nimidas Securities, where he worked a jobber for the broker Prasanna Pranjivandas broker, who he considered his guru. Over a period of 10 years, beginning 1980, he served in positions of increasing responsibility at a series of brokerage firms. By 1990, he had risen to a position of prominence in the Indian securities industry, with the media, including popular magazines such as Business Today, touting him as Amitabh Bachchan of the stock market. Grow more research and asset management, with the financial assistance of associates. When the BSE auctioned a broker's card, he actively started to trade in 1986. By early 1990, a number of eminent people began to invest in his firm and utilize his services. It was at this time that he began trading heavily in the shares of Associated Cement Company, ACC. The price of shares in the cement company eventually rose from 200 rupees to nearly 9,000 rupees due to a massive spate of buying from a set of brokers including Mehta. Mehta justified this excessive trading in ACC shares by stating that the stock had been undervalued, and that the market had simply corrected when it revalued the company at a price equivalent to the cost of building a similar enterprise, the so-called replacement cost theory that he had put forward. During this period, especially in 1990-1991, the media portrayed a heightened deified image of Mehta, calling him the Big Bull. He was covered in a cover-page article of a number of publications including the popular economic magazine Business Today, in an article titled, Raging Bull. His flashy lifestyle of a sea-facing 15,000 square feet penthouse in the Tony area of Worli, complete with a mini golf course and swimming pool, and his fleet of cars including a Toyota Corolla, Lexus LS400, and Toyota Sierra were flashed in publications. These further exemplified his image at a time when these were rarities even for the rich people of India. First scam by Harshad Mehta. Harshad Mehta learned about the share market and techniques through his employment. He learned them through his own experience, not from books or the internet. He was a brilliant man who learned about the stock market in a short time. He was well versed in how the stock market rises and falls. In 1986, he established his own brokerage firm, Grow More Research and Asset Management, to sell and buy shares from the public in a certain company's market in order to broaden his company. His customers began to approach him for advice on where to invest in or purchase shares in the stock market. He selected some filthy firm that is of no use, where those companies do not even have an address, or a company that does not exist. He was nicknamed the Red Bull of Dalal Street, as well as the Amitabh Bachchan of the Indian stock market. The shareholders made a mistake by refusing to double-check the information given by him. They acquired those shares because they fully trusted him. The strategy employed to enhance these share market values was to portray such companies as profitable companies that generate benefits for those shareholders. There was no internet in the 1990s to check, thus this was his first scam. He made a lot of money from the stock market. Later, he needed more money to invest in the stock market, but he hadn't earned enough money from the stock market to do so. Because investing in the stock market required so much money, it was usually done by wealthy people. Second scam by Harshad Mehta. Then, taking the next step, Harshad Mehta opted to work as a broker for banks in the financial market. He tricked the banks by presenting as a broker to some of them. Bank brokers connect two banks for the purpose of lending money and receiving money when the bank requires it using the bank's securities. Harshad Mehta directed the lending bank to deposit the funds into his personal account, from which he transferred money to the receiving bank. Similarly, he triggered and received unlawful funds from various well-known banks, including National Housing Bank, State Bank of India, and UCO Bank, by utilizing forged bank receipts. He began by crediting such funds to the banks appropriately, and then he gradually began to scam those banks by crediting funds to his accounts without any bank security. He got additional money in crores as a result of this fraudulent plan and invested it in his small business. The bank's money is the people's money that was handed to the bank for safety or security. Those funds were not managed effectively and were delivered to him, where he spent it. He offered money and forced all wealthy people not to open his scams, but when he began to expand in wealth, everyone began to take note of his behavior, especially Sucheta Dalal, a Times of India journalist. When she learned about all of Harshad's frauds, she began to take note of his activities. Then she posted the news in an article about the Harshad scam, and all shareholders became aware of the fraud, and each shareholder began selling all their shares at a low price. The shareholders' firm began to lose money, and the RBI began to investigate and found Harshad's fraudulent scam. He had committed a $1 billion scam to purchase stocks from the Bombay Stock Exchange, resulting in a significant loss of Rs. 0.3500-4,000 crores to the financial system and a severe collapse of the Indian stock market, which is known as the Scam 1992. He was arrested and then later released on bail. Harshad Mehta was accused of 74 criminal cases. He was later charged with another financial crime and imprisoned. Facts about the infamous Harshad Mehta scam of 1992. Banks were eligible to trade in the share market until the early 1990s. Harshad, who had links with bank executives, offered the banks a greater rate of interest in exchange for transferring the funds straight into his personal bank account. Fake financial receipts were also produced in his name by the banks. After fraudulently obtaining cash from banks, he utilized the vast sum of money to purchase a few selected shares, causing the price of those shares to rise. This would encourage other investors to buy those specific shares, causing the price of those shares to rise rapidly. He would then sell his shares secretly to pocket the big profit. For example, in 1991, Harshad started investing in the shares in Associated Cement Company and increased their value from 200 rupees to 9,000 rupees in less than 3 months. Many people were suspicious of Harshad's luxurious lifestyle, but it was journalist Sucheta Dalal who decided to take a step further and looked into the ways through which Harshad acquired such wealth in such a short period of time. The Harshad Mehta scam finally came to an end on April 23, 1992, when Sucheta published an article in the Times of India detailing Mehta's fraudulent strategies for controlling stock prices. Harshad Mehta scammed the State Bank of India for 5 billion rupees by creating an SGL receipt that disappeared, according to her. People had started to look for Harshad after that. On February 28, 1992, the tax institution conducted searches. The RBI set up the Janakiraman Committee, and he was found guilty and charged with 74 criminal offences. In November 1992, he and his brothers, who planned and executed the operation together, were imprisoned by the Central Bureau of Investigation. The financial regulatory system in India has undergone several adjustments as a result of the scam. The Securities Laws Amendments Act of 1995 was enacted. After 3 months in prison, Harshad and his brothers were released on bail, and weeks later, he and his lawyer, Ram Jethmalani, openly announced that he had given 1 crore rupees to Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao as involvement to the Congress to just get him off the hook. Fake bank receipts, BR. Harshad Mehta was offered fake bank receipts by two well-known banks, the Bank of Karad and the Metropolitan Cooperative Bank Limited. They were handed to banks, who in turn provided him money. He faked bank receipts by asking for the help of bank staff involved in the scam. He utilized them to withdraw funds from banks in order to invest in the stock market. He was arrested and banished from the stock market, with investors holding him responsible for causing losses to various entities. Mehta and his brothers were arrested by the CBI on the 9th of November 1992 for allegedly misappropriating more than 2.8 million shares of about 90 companies through forged share transfer forms. The total value of the shares misappropriation was placed at 250 crore rupees, equivalent to 16 billion rupees or 200 million United States dollars in 2020, and various bank officers were investigated and implicated in fraudulent charges. The 5 main accused officials were related to the Financial Fair Growth Services Limited, FFSL, and Andhra Bank Financial Services Limited, ABFSL. The chairman of Vijaya Bank committed suicide following the news about the bank receipt scam. The scam led to the resignation of P. Chidambaram, who was accused of owning shell companies connected to Mehta. Mehta was convicted by the Bombay High Court and the Supreme Court of India for his part in the financial scandal valued at 49.99 billion rupees, US $740 million. Various bank officials were arrested, leading to a complete breakdown of banking systems. Subsequent reforms. The first reform was the formation of the National Stock Exchange of India, NSE. It was followed by the development of the Key Code for Desirable Corporate Governance by Rahul Bajaj. The Key Code commanded the formation of two major committees headed by Kumar Mangalam Birla and N.R. Narayana Murthy, and overseen by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI. The objective was to monitor corporate governance and prevent future scams. The SEBI were to monitor the NSE and the National Securities Depository. For the equity market, the government introduced 10 Acts of Parliament and one constitutional amendment based upon the principles of economic reform and legislative changes. The introduction of online trading by NSE changed the dynamics of stock buying and selling. The financial market opened up nationally rather than being and it were to be monitored by the Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Conclusion: Harshad Mehta was a clever man with big ambitions, but the path he took to get there was the wrong one. This path led to his downfall and, finally, his death. One of the loopholes that the scam brought into light was that there was a complete absence of clarity in the financial markets. Irregularities of all kinds were so widespread that even highly irregular transactions raised very little inquiry. This is the ideal setting for a scam to take form and develop to dangerous dimensions. The Harshad Mehta scam was the most public and terrible financial scandal to ever occur in India. Many individuals had died and some even committed suicide. All of the wealthy individuals were suffering from mental and physical exhaustion as a result of the scam. He was a brave stockbroker as a natural outcome and was well versed in both the banking system's weaknesses and techniques of how to enjoy those benefits from them. No, he wasn't a hero. He was a fraudster, and that's what he will be always. Who has given you the right to use the nation's money to make yourself rich? There was no exploitation of loopholes, just bribery of government officials. Thinking for yourself, giving ABR without delivery is not a problem of the system, it's the problem of the people in the system. No one would have thought that people can go that dishonest. And the fact that he didn't run away from India was not because he was a nationalist. At that point of time, political monopoly was huge, due to which investigations could be stopped, cases could be bailed. He even had a deal with the ruling party of India, after which he got bailed. He himself had become a hero, or you could say a don. He made the market euphoric and in the process used banks and misused the stock market at a large scale. That was the first scam after independence. And that scam really shook the Indian economy and Indian politics. The scam was severe and it left a permanent scar on the capital market. When Harshad Mehta was arrested after the scam, he made a sensational claim that he had handed over a suitcase of cash to P.V. Narasimha Rao to get him off the hook in the case, but P.V. Rao denied it. Still, the case study is going on of this scam. The greed to make quick money and ego to beat the system and become invincible, this is what going on in our country. There are many black holes in our legal system due to which people like Nirav, Malyar and Harshad successful in their mission, which seems impossible. I am learning about stock market from last 6 months, and what I found, the majority of investors are unsuccessful in this market because they want to become crores overnight. People lost their fortunes, which they built in 30, 40 years, in 1 year. In one scam, you could lose all your things, all your savings of 30, 40, 50 years. Getting returns in 1000 looks like a cakewalk, but remember, Rome was not built in a day, but Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed in a day. The conclusion end is he is not hero or villain, but he is good and intelligent investor who gives stock market to the new era and beat all bears who think they rule or making laws about stock market, but the reality is this market is for all.